Good morning. I'm Marvin Watkins. I will be conducting our short safety briefing. I would like to talk about this accident that occurred over here at Graniteville, South Carolina, here a few years ago. On January 5th, 2005, the railway crew began their normal routine of hooking and unhooking cars up and down the industrial area there in Graniteville, South Carolina. They had to use switches on the main track to divert their engine to hook and unhook the cars. As the day progressed, the crew realized that they didn't have enough time to complete the work list. The Federal Railway Administration says they can only work 12 hours. So they finished a 12-hour shift and went home for the day. On January the 6th, 2005, northbound train 192 came into Graniteville, South Carolina, traveling about 48 miles an hour. When they got to Avondale Mills, the engineer realized at about 200 feet that the switch had been left in the divert position. The train was diverted onto a side track where Norfolk Southern P-22 train was parked. These trains collided, derailing 3 engines and 18 cars off of northbound 192. The 9th car of this train was carrying chlorine. This car was ruptured. This car had about 90 tons of chlorine. About 60 or 70 tons of this chlorine was spilt out into the environment. Chlorine has an expansion rate of about 450 to 500 to 1. So now they have a disaster on their hand in a populated area. The emergency response team that got there didn't know what they was dealing with. They didn't know what to do, so they did nothing. It took them about 4 hours to finally come up with a plan. They began to evacuate the people. They evacuated, of course, the ones closest to the accident site first. Evacuated everybody from within a 1 mile radius of this crash site. The people that lived farthest away was allowed to return home after just a few weeks. So the ones that lived closer to the area, they didn't get to return home for several months. And chlorine is corrosive. It kills everything that it touches. It kills the trees, the plants, the vegetations, all the life, insects and birds. And some of this chlorine, along with diesel fuel, made its way downhill and into nearby Horse Creek. It killed the vegetation up and down the creek bank about 1,800 feet. It killed all the marine life that was in the creek. And this economic disaster was devastating for Avondale Mills. They tried to restart the plant, but this chlorine gas had got on all the equipment inside the building, so it corroded all that. So it had to be cleaned, repaired, or replaced. So this was an expensive process. They tried to get the mill running again. They had to use trucks for their supply chain in and out of the mill. They weren't set up for trucks, so this wasn't working for them. So they eventually closed the mill after just a few months of operation. Because of this economic disaster, they had to close 3 other mills. This cost about 4,000 people their jobs in 4 other states. And about 1,500 people lost their jobs there at Graniteville, South Carolina for Avondale Mills. Now, they sold 3 of their mills to Parkdale Mills. This saved about 300 jobs in another area. The cause of the accident is under investigation by the Federal Railroad Administration, and they determined that the last person to touch the switch was the brakeman. It's his responsibility to make sure the switch is returned into the normal operating position. Now, that doesn't relieve the other crew members from them not making sure that he did his job. So, because of this, all 3 of these crew members was relieved of their duties from Norfolk Southern. And as you can imagine, the litigation process was long, drawn out, and expensive. Avondale Mills sued Norfolk Southern for millions of dollars. Norfolk Southern's insurance paid Avondale Mills about $115 million. Norfolk Southern paid Avondale Mills $100 million. They had to pay $6 million to the people in the area for punitive damages. They paid $16 million to the people that had severe damages in the area. They paid $4 million to the EPA for the environmental disaster they had caused and for the cleanup on that. Now, the people that lost lives in this accident, they had their own separate litigation process against Norfolk Southern. And 3 long years later, they still haven't settled with Norfolk Southern. So, y'all be safe, watch out for each other, and have a good day. Thank you for your time.